You guys know what it is. It's the Week 7 recap. But first off, we have an announcement. As most of you guys saw, I put up a post in the group me that you guys could vote on. And it was about crowning the winner and the loser after the season, like right after the season, or just wait until draft day. And the waiting till next draft was chosen. And you know what? I think this was the right answer. It's hard enough to bring us all together once a year. Let's not try to do it twice a year. We could just use the group message instead. But if the person who loses is local, I'm gonna pop up and just put the license plate on their car anyway, because I love sabotage. All right, let's get on with the recap. We have a lot of great narratives that occurred, so I can't wait to get into them. Let's see who Dan's gonna talk about first.
Our first matchup this week, we have Brian versus Devin. Brian snuck out the win 115-83. He improves to 4-3. Devin drops to 2-5. Brian was led by Kyler Murray with 27, AJ Brown with 23, and Deebo Samuel. Devin played his best possible lineup this week, yet still scored the fewest points in the league. He had a lot of players on bye, as I'm sure a lot of us did as well. He was led by Kyle Pitts, who's coming on strong, and watch out for that.
This matchup has an award this week for most surprising. During BYEPOCALYPSE, neither team here had any options on who to start. Their benches were either filled with injuries and players on bye that could not be dropped. It was between Chad and Daniel Saul. Chad's bench was so bad that he had to start a player on bye. The reason it's so surprising is because even though Chad was down a starter, it didn't matter. Both running backs, Drake and Booker, scored, as well as his tight end, Robert Tonyan. And, of course, Michael Pittman had a great game on Monday. Things were not as good for Dan Saul, though. He had a big game from Tua, Hollywood, and, surprisingly, Khalil Herbert. But underwhelming games from most other players, including his third-round pick, Allen Robinson, who, I hate to say it, could be worth dropping. Definitely the biggest bust so far this season, but both teams now become 3-4 as Chad beats Dan Saul 119-113.
In our closest matchup of the week, Andrew narrowly edged Ryan 110-106. In two different strategies here, Andrew's team had Joe Burrow, who scored 32, and Damian Harris, who scored 24, and they doubled anyone else's scoring on his team, whereas Ryan was more balanced. He had Terry McLaurin, who led him with 22. Jonathan Taylor scored 16, and Michael Carter also in double digits with 12 points this week. As he falls to 5-2, Andrew improves to 5-2. Those are two teams to watch out for in contention as we come down the home stretch.
The next matchup includes the performance of the week, and it was between David and Ethan. The formerly known Flava Dave pulled out a big win this week, scoring the second highest point total of 146 points against Ethan's 96. Dave, who is now 5-2, was led by none other than Aaron Rodgers with 30, who is making his last dance an incredible one for his fantasy owners. But one downfall for him this week came from Mike Evans. No, not during his performance. He scored... Well, that was fun. All right, Mike Evans, he scored 28 points and had 3 touchdowns, but he gave away Tom Brady's 600th TD to a fan in the stands. That should get him a spot on your bench for not being self-aware. P.S. Brady got the ball back. On the other side of the matchup, we had Ethan Trapp, who was now 2-5, who has just been atrocious, losing 5 straight. Somehow, Jalen Hurts always puts up a good performance, but looks bad on TV. He scored 27 points this week, but having no options to play on his bench left him with a low score. Hopefully, with Nick Chubb back next week, you can get the ball rolling. But you are Dan Monen's #1 target in the last place standings. I also texted to Dave to talk about his team and what's going on. He told me that the record speaks for itself, his 5-2 record. His haters should be silenced. AB was his most underrated draft pick as he was taken in the double-digit rounds. He's been huge for him. And Gesicki has been incredible, which I drafted and dropped stupidly after he put up a goose. So, shame on me. He also said Hunter Renfrow was one of his best additions. He's been the next man up multiple times and has really brought our team culture. And Also, since basketball's starting, I know we have a lot of basketball fans here. David is actually living out his childhood dream. He works for Sportscasting. It's a sister site to a big pop culture media outlet, Showbiz Cheat Sheet. They write all about sports, but he's a leader writer of the NBA staff. He's done interviews with Shaq, Vernon Davis, plenty of big names. But he also writes about timely news and his opinion. So if you want to, go ahead, check him out, obviously on socials and everything. That would help him out big time.
Our next matchup, we have Alex versus Reedy. Alex improved to 4-3. Reedy drops to 6-1, his first loss of the season. He did have a lot of players on bye: Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson. He just quite simply didn't have the players this week. Matt Stafford led his team with 33. Chris Godwin put up 21 in the loss. For Alex, he was led by TB12, who put up 32. King Henry put up 17. And DeAndre Swift put up 24 in that matchup.
And with my last matchup of the week, we had two very big scenarios in this last game. We have Keegan, who reigns again as the #1 point scored on the week. 2 weeks in a row, this week with 147, narrowly beating Dave's 146. Even with a very bad performance of Sam Darnold with 2 points, it might be time to start Derek Carr for him. Keegan had another huge performance from Cooper Kupp, scoring a huge 32 points, being the wide receiver 1 this week. It might be time to consider Cooper Kupp as a first-round draft pick for next year. But not only that, his running back, Alvin Kamara, was also the running back 1 of the week, scoring 29 points. All of this plus starting an injured Darren Waller with 0 points. Well, he didn't even play. He had 0 points. It led Dan Monin to yet another loss. Dan had a respectable 125. He was led by Rookie of the Year candidate Jamar Chase, who was a wide receiver 2 with 30 points. And he had Dearness Johnson, who was an amazing pickup, who had a surprising 24 points. Dan would have beaten 8 other teams this week, but I guess that's how the cookie crumbles. But instead, he becomes 0-7 as he looks for his first win. As Keegan becomes 3-4, he's quickly rising up in the standings. Also, let me know in the comments, is Dan bad or just unlucky? All right, guys, Week 7 recap finally finished. Let's move on to Week 8. Thursday night game, Cardinals versus Packers. Make sure to take out most of your Packers receivers because they have COVID. Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard. So that's a reminder for you guys. Hope you guys have a good week and stay tuned for the next recap and Reedy's predictions.